So, Allie, you were right on your schedule throughout the entire race. I mean, I looked at the numbers, plus or minus. I think 16 minutes was the furthest you got off of your race plan.
Yeah.
So does that mean everything went right for you?
You know, everything went well. I went into the race with 12 dogs, and I went in with 2 dogs, Moon Pie and Huey, who the last week or week and a half I had noticed they were enthusiastic to go, but after about, you know, maybe 5-6 hours, they just seemed like something was not quite right. I couldn't pinpoint this, and I don't know. I talked to it with a few veterinarians before we left, but it turned out that Moon Pie still has a little bit of an inflammation in kind of his hock area that only is obvious after, you know, say 6 or 7 hours of working. So that's the reason that I left him after 5 hours of working at Wolverine. He still was sadly pretty enthusiastic to go, so as the handlers drug him away, he didn't want to leave. But, you know, you can't take a dog who's even, you know, any kind of evidence of injury. And then Huey, bless his heart, he made it 100 miles, and then he just wasn't keeping up with the team. I came into the checkpoint in Sourdough, and he did not have a tight tug line. And there is no reason for him, a 3-year-old dog with all the energy in the world, to not have a tight tug line. And I only had 4 hours at Sourdough, so I didn't want to really delve into what was going on with him. But I had noticed that he just seemed to be running underneath himself, which signifies that he might have a few sore biceps or triceps, and it did turn out to be that way in the long run. So both those dogs were kind of, I would have told you that I would have had issues with those dogs to begin with. So as I left there with 10 dogs, I was still thinking, okay, that's what I'd like to finish with. That's what I came in thinking I could finish with. But it didn't exactly work out that way. I came into the second to last checkpoint, Chistachino, where we had a 4-hour rest, and one of my other 3-year-olds, right at the end of the rest, I stood her up to walk around, and she was favoring her right front. And it's those situations where, you know, maybe she slept on it wrong, you know, or maybe she just twisted it, or maybe she stubbed her toe, or those kinds of things. But you can't really, when you're in a short race where minutes count, you can't stand there and really hem and haw. So I left Bonita behind, and Doug said 15 minutes later she wasn't favoring it at all. So, you know, is that a mistake or not? You'll never know. And then coming through the last checkpoint, 22 miles from the finish line, I had a 2-year-old in the team, and as we know, I was racing with some pretty good teams there in the end, with Hugh Neff and Zach Steer. And the 2-year-old just kind of scout. He looked back at me twice, like, okay, I'm tired. And once you look back at me and say I'm tired twice, that's fine. You can be tired. And so I ended up leaving him at the hub just because he was tired. And we did have 3.5 hours more to go, so it was a pretty smart move. So came into the finish line with 8. Not real happy about that. The 8 that came in were great, and answered quite a few questions about, you know, 3-year-old dogs that we need to know for Iditarod.
Overall, for me, I couldn't ask for anything better than what they put out in performance. Especially the young dogs. I had a 2-year-old named Ranger and a 3-year-old named Pud that have never raced, period. They've never been in a race, and I don't think they've ever even camped out. So it was an eye-opening experience for them and for me, in that how well they did. Overall, they did fantastic.
Great.
So it's going to our Iditarod is going to look a lot better because of that, of them.
Allie, what's your view of the dogs? I mean, this is
overall, the kennel, I mean, great. I mean, not only did they perform well in the race, but I mean, the thing that always stresses me out is transporting, feeding, caring for, dealing with the emotional stresses of, you know, transporting dogs. And not every single dog is the best traveler. You know, we've got Skittles, who doesn't really like to travel, and we've got Nutmeg, who drools when she's in the dog pen, and, you know, we have a couple little dogs, Kipper and mini who, you know, they have to travel with someone else because they're pretty small, and you worry about them getting cold in the kennels and stuff. So
this is the mother speaking.
On top of all of, you know, dealing with individuals and personalities, we got to the race healthy. We had no issues healthy. Everyone was eating great. Despite the fact that, you know, you take them out of their home kennel away from their houses and you bring them to Glen Allen and show them a hotel, and they're like, what am I supposed to be doing here? They all ate great. We medicated everyone with anti-ulcer medication, Prilosec. So that was clean across the board. And as far as racing goes, we came away with no injuries, no real injuries. Everyone has gone on a short run since we came back and stretched out, and that's all they really needed. So dog-wise, they look good, I guess, after the first race of the season.
The good thing is they ate well. I mean, especially because, you know, Eagle Pack dog food, they seem to like it. And the vets did comment before the race how much weight they had, which was great, which contributed to our award. So we would like to thank them for sure.
So tell us about the award. I wasn't able to be there.
Well, most races over the state, smaller races as well as Iditarod, they like to pinpoint a team usually that the vets really noticed that these dogs had spectacular dog care. I mean, every single one of the mushers were down there, you know, looking at feet and ointment and massaging dogs and doing all that. So the vets really came out and said, you know, there's not really one team that we want to give this award to. So what they said, they're going to kind of go outside of the box and say there is a group here of dogs that are all obviously from the same kennel, and the mushers are from the same kennel. So instead of just picking out one musher, they wanted to pick out a kennel who brought 36 dogs, who everyone knows is a large portion of our entire kennel, 3 mushers, and you know, came away with phenomenal looking athletes in the end. So it didn't only, you know, talk about us as mushers and caretakers, but it talked about our whole program, you know, as a kennel, as everything that we do year-wise is basically signifies that we take great care of our dogs coming into the race, and they race and then they come out being, you know, healthy and happy. And so that means more than just, you know, Alan winning it or Bridget winning it or something like that. It's like we all did a good job, and they looked at the dogs and they could tell, every single dog.